with Jen Taylor. She's the CEO of Mixpanel. Mixpanel is a company you know, obviously one of the major players in the field of analytics. You've joined Mixpanel like what?
2 months ago.
2 months ago.
Yep.
So that's very fresh.
Very fresh.
Very fresh.
Yes.
You were flying from London this morning, so
Yes.
thank you again for being there. And together, what we're gonna explore is how AI is redefining analytics, especially for product people, but globally also. If I may, I would like to start with a bit of maybe personal context, because I know, as you said, that you've joined recently and that you have a very strong background in product.
Yes.
You're a former chief product officer.
Yes.
And you're now moved to this CEO role.
Yes.
And that's not something that common for product people to become CEO. Sometimes they create their own startup, but to become CEO of an established company is something a bit different. So I would like to explore that for a minute, even if we're not in the career track. I'm really interested. Can you tell us a bit more about your career, your journey?
Yeah, no, I started my career early in product management. I had started in consulting and banking, and I realized what I really love is helping people solve problems and build businesses, and then working with teams of people to deliver the solutions to do that. And that really was my career in product, right? My true north is customer, and that is what guided me through kind of progression in my product management career. Also, some stints in marketing and operations. I started getting a very robust picture of the business. Just as I was passionate about helping people build businesses, I'm also passionate about building businesses. And so for me, as I progressed in my career, I found myself taking on more and more responsibility across the organization and having more curiosity about not just how do I help transform the lives of my customers, but how do I transform the lives of the organization and the team. And I think that's what sort of drove me into a desire to pursue CEO opportunities. For me, the problem I solve and the customers I get to work with are the most important thing. And there really is nothing I care more about than really helping people understand their customers in data. And so when I had a chance to connect with Mixpanel, it was just perfect.
Okay. And did you feel that this transition was really something very natural, as you mentioned? Is there still something that you're finding out that it's harder than you expected, being a CEO compared to being a CPO, for example?
I think the nice thing about the progression I had is I sort of went from being an individual contributor to being a player coach, to managing a team of product managers, to managing all the product managers, to having responsibility for design, for having, so over time, my responsibilities across the organization grew and scaled. And I think for me, as I stepped into this role, I was very conscious of the fact that I was once again going to be taking on leadership of roles that I myself have never done, right? I've never led a sales organization. I've never led a finance organization. And I honestly kind of went back to my product management roots as I pursued it to really understand and partner with the people who are leading those functions and to learn and to listen and to bring my curiosity and sort of learn as we go.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool,
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So let's dive into analytics now.
Yeah.
You're often saying that we're at some kind of a transformational moment for analytics. And I would like to know what it means exactly.
Well, I think there are two transformations I see happening in the analytics space. I think first and foremost, it's, we're in a world where I think people have gone from having kind of what we'd call best of breed solutions that they need to stitch together or swivel chairs between, right? Between product analytics, session replay, experimentation, all of these different tools to really people moving in the direction of having integrated platforms. And I think this is transformational because what it enables us as product leaders to do is get a multi-dimensional view of the experience our customers are having. For me, it's the ability to marry richer data insights with the qualitative insights and get that more comprehensive picture. So I think that's one transformational moment. The second transformational moment, honestly, is AI, right? I mean, if we didn't talk about AI, we probably wouldn't be having a conversation right now. I think for me, what I'm noticing about AI is that it is further democratizing access to skills and technologies for product managers, right? You can now use Lovable to prototype, use Figma Make to go further into design. It's our responsibility as analytics providers to further democratize analytics as part of that journey. And as you democratize, it's not just about getting started and asking questions of the data, but it's also the ability to help with the analysis. Why did the chart drop? What should I go do next? What experimentation should I run? How should I evaluate that? To be the assistive kind of boost to help product managers get further along in the analytics journey.
Okay. A question I have, one of the pitfalls of AI is that it also creates a lot of noise.
Yes.
Because it's easier to produce code. We mentioned that we talked about it with Lovable this morning. So we're producing, I don't know what's the ratio, but we're probably producing 10 times more code than we used to. But it's also, not sometimes very qualitative. So when it comes to analyzing and to have insights from this code, how does it change your approach as a major player in analytics to make the difference between signal and noise?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, it just means that things like analytics and experimentation become all the more important, right? You have huge volumes of code. How do you know if it's any good? How do I test it? How do I provide the criteria that helps me basically do an eval of the experience I'm just creating? I think the other is, while AI is, I think, helping us leapfrog and move forward very quickly, I think we need to remember that it's still relatively early days for many of these AI workflows. And a huge part of what AI does is it accelerates what we're able to do as humans, but we still need to participate as humans. And the judgment that we brought as product managers and product leaders into the product development process needs to continue even in the world of AI.
Okay. And do you intend to play a role with Mixpanel for teams building, let's say, purely AI products, AI native products? So how do you integrate with these, AI stacks? And I'm not talking about you as Mixpanel integrating AI in your own stack. We'll come to that later.
No, I mean, I think it's the billion-dollar question for everyone, right? I mean, you have to remember, the dawn of Mixpanel was really the rise of mobile applications. And the key insight was the way that we quantified success of a web-based browser experience was looking at session duration, session frequency. The transformation when you moved to mobile was an understanding that those journeys were going to be different, and the notion of a session was really no longer kind of the ground truth of success, which really drove us in the direction of events. I think we're still figuring out, what does success look like with AI? Does it move us back more towards a session-based experience? But then also, how do we help quantify success when it may be more nebulous or more qualitative or more iterative? So absolutely excited to participate in that journey with the community and to be a key part of basically experimenting and rolling those solutions out as they become available.
And what's your bet? I mean, if you had to, place one and say, okay, I think in 5 years is maybe too much. Let's say 1 year, we are going this direction, and this is the bet that Mixpanel is doing to, be ready for that evolution.
I think that there are kind of two things that we need to think about. I think in some ways we're almost moving back towards the notion of session, or consistent and persistent relationships between the application and the user, because it's no longer sort of, input, output, you're done. If you're actually delivering value to your customer, it's frequency of session, it's repeat session, it's extension of session, it's the change in topics that helps you basically so I think it's about changing the metrics we look at. I'm picking session now for lack of a better word, but we'll probably come up with a better one. And the other one for me is starting to help identify and be able to understand, probably through AI, to judge AI, the success of the interactions and the satisfaction of the user. But at the same time, what satisfies you may not be what satisfies me. So lots of learning. But very much in the center of that, I think we're experimenting with much of this already ourselves, and really striving to work closely with the community as they experiment and think about it as well.
Okay, cool. So that's a perfect segue into my next question, which is your personal, not personal, but your usage of AI at Mixpanel. So we talked about how you can help companies who are using AI to understand more their customer behaviors, for example. But how are you leveraging AI to make your product better?
Well, I think obviously there's the sort of internal and external workflow. I mean, obviously on the internal side, like many other people, we're embracing AI, accelerating AI, all of that sort of stuff. The thing that I have been most excited about for us internally, yes, I love the code assistance and the lead scoring and all of that. For me as a product person, one of the things that's been most interesting is the consumption of qualitative information, because one of the most powerful things as product leaders has been the stories that your customers tell you, or the conversations you have with customers, but it's virtually impossible to be able to consume those at scale. And so, because it's like you sort of have recency bias, you can't read them all, how do you, and the ability for tools and solutions to help us really look at and understand that qualitative aspect, I think has been really transformational for us internally. Externally, obviously, we're kind of well underway with our MCP. We're well underway with our chat. We're well underway in terms of, accelerating experimentation, iteration. We just did a small acquisition a few weeks ago now of a company called Double Loop, which is, thank you. We're integrating AI into some of the causal analysis that we're doing in things like metric trees to help customers better understand the relationship of their different metrics, as well as get insights as to sort of what are some of the experiments or things people might want to go do as a way to think about moving those metrics. So it's really this sort of iterative experimentation with the community right now.
Okay, I have a question. Maybe it's a little bit touchy, but you'll tell me about data privacy.
Yeah.
Question is, I've personally witnessed different phases into the way software vendors approach their data privacy.
Yeah.
So at a certain period of time, the idea was to be, as open as possible, because the idea was building a platform, integrate with as many other players as possible. So the trend was like, okay, APIs, you can access my data as often as you want.
Right.
And then software vendors realized that their data is also their value, of course. And by making it easier for other players to access their data, it's also making it easier for their customers to churn and to go to other platforms, especially right now where the pace of innovation kind of fosters this, hopping from one solution to the other. So what is your approach on that, and where do you think should the market go?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two pieces to that, right? One is data privacy, and the other is how do you create and deliver value for your customers, right? For me, data privacy it just is. It is ground truth in the work that we all do. I think it's important to understand and respect as a global company that cultural norms, regulatory norms vary dramatically from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The most important things we can do as an organization is to build the safeguards into the platforms and also provide the controls to the users so that they can choose what they share, how they share it, how they capture it, when they purge it, so that they can, again, work within the norms of their market, their regulatory environment, and the customers they serve. Going to be very different from a B2B organization to a consumer organization to all sorts of different things. And so I think that's key. The second is, for me, I think if you roll back the tape on sort of the dawn of SaaS-based applications, a huge part of the value was the ability to bring data in and act on the data. The way that they created lock-in was by making it very difficult for you to get your data out.
Yes.
I think those days have passed. Right? It's just like no longer is the data storage wed specifically to the application capability. And so our responsibility as infrastructure providers and application providers is to focus less on what are the strategies we can use to make our customers keep our data in, and more, how do we deliver unique value in the applications that we build on top of it, such that we give the customers the freedom and the choice by delivering the value they need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I would like to talk now about innovation. So it sounds like a very global term, but you're in a very, very competitive market. And I think AI is a blessing in a way that it allows us to move faster in various directions. But I'm wondering how internally you make sure that you're still able to innovate and to offer your customers things that are not being copied 10 minutes later because just it is possible.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great question, because I think that first and foremost, everybody's like, when I moved to Mixpanel, they're like, it's a very competitive market, and I was like, yes, I want to build a career in anything other than a competitive market. If you're the only player in the market, it's typically an indication that the market has been solved or is not one that you necessarily want to be in. And so for me, I'm excited about being in a competitive market. And I'm excited specifically because the catalyst of innovation. I think the thing I've seen time and time again throughout my career is one, again, that ground truth and focusing on customer and spending time in the market to understand not what my competitors are doing, but where are my customers going? What are the problems they need? What are the unique insights that we can bring and use that to drive the innovation? Because I think that's where you really get the value. I think it's also really important as an organization to build a culture internally of experimentation and failure. I think that every organizations that I lead, organizations I've been a part of, allocating a certain amount of your resources specifically dedicated to experimentation and pushing that organization to a place where it is expected that they will fail, and those failures are rewarded as learning opportunities, because otherwise you're not pushing hard enough.
Okay. Just a question about design, because I also believe that, we haven't talked much about design today, because it's a product conference, so design is a bit left out of the conversation. But with AI, we give access, we have like an easy access to technology, and we forget that sometimes it moves to a design challenge and not a technological challenge. So I'm just wondering how you approach that at Mixpanel. And for example, how do you make sure that you find the right balance between human judgment and AI judgment in analyzing the outcome from the platform? Because you provide a lot of analytics, dashboards, insights, but you can also say, okay, AI is going to give you the dashboard, also provide you with the layer of analysis on top of that. But where is the human in the loop, as Solène said earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I think design is critical in the creation of any of the applications that we deliver. And I think specifically sort of the mandate we have as people operating around analytics for product, design is critical because it helps democratize the access to the technology and it democratize the access to the solutions. When I go in and talk to customers, I was like, why are you using Mixpanel? How are you using it? And they're like, listen, I needed something that I could give my product managers and marketers and operations folks that they could just run with, so that I could make sure that they had the freedom to run independent of my business intelligence or data science team. At the same time, product managers are typically not trained in kind of data science and stuff like that. And so the design is critical. And I think even more so in the world of AI. The nice thing is AI gives us a chance to do a lot of experimentation and the like. But I also think the thing I like about where we are in the world of product analytics right now, again, as I said earlier, is that where I see us moving to is this integrated platform. We just recently launched session replays. We're launching experimentation. Part of what I like about that is we're adding, in addition to our events-based engine that captures all the activities and draws you the dashboards and all that stuff, we're actually adding things like session replays and experimentation that enable you to overlay and understand both the user experience and the visual part of what is happening in the application with the activity and the events, so you get that richer, holistic picture of the user experience.
Okay, that connects with maybe my last question, which is more to the, if you can put your business hat, how do you stay a category leader in such a competitive market? Because you mentioned like one axis of your strategy that could be, you're trying to like extend the feature footprint of your product. This is one strategy. Another strategy could be to be super, super accurate on your actual segment. So I'm wondering how you envision that.
I mean, I think for us, it is continuing to stay maniacally focused on the true north, which is customer. At the end of the day, we are built, delivered service. We service product managers and marketers as they're looking to better understand their customers and their businesses to help them drive innovation and experiences that everybody loves. And it's staying focused on that, not getting sucked into business intelligence, not getting sucked into these other things that start to become distractions, using that focus as an opportunity to go deep and to partner and to really understand what it is that matters. You can do 1,000 things, as is always the case with product. You could do 1,000 things. Our job is to figure out what are the 3 things that really matter and how do we do those just the best in the world.
Okay, and maybe to close the the fireside chat, maybe a more global question on your feeling from the Valley, because you're there and you're part of this, just crazy things that are happening right now. We see that every now software vendors is kind of competing against each other because they're all trying to get a little piece of the full scope of building a product. So applies to Figma. I was very focused on the design part. Now with Figma Make, with Dev Mode. So it's like the full scope, and we see that every platform is trying almost to do the same. So I'm just interested in having your opinion on where is everything going? What's your feeling? How do you analyze this market to navigate and have the right strategy?
I mean, I think industries and markets move in these sort of cycles, right? In the dawn of whatever is happening in a category, you'll have a company like Atlassian and they have a product like Jira, and then over time, their portfolio expands to service not just that individual, but better the needs of that individual, and then the better the needs of that individual in collaboration with their team. It just means that organizations end up on natural sort of collision courses or consolidation. It's part of the cycle of life. I think the important thing we all can do within the context of the industry is embrace that change, embrace the curiosity, and embrace the needs of the users, and sort of lean into it. I'm not that kind of competition or that sort of consolidation. It doesn't make me nervous. It makes me sort of curious and excited about what are the opportunities that lie ahead for us as a standalone organization and an organization kind of going forward in perpetuity, and then the other organizations and teams that we're going to work and partner with to deliver the solutions that our customers really need.
Thank you, Jen.
Yep.